Hello. It's been a wee while since I've been online here making a recording. This is just like a starter because I have been away for a few weeks doing various travellings, and I have got footage sitting waiting to be edited of different exhibitions. I've been to London, I've gone to a bookshop and bought a huge amount of books for me, and all these goodies are sitting waiting in suspended animation to be edited and finalised and voiced over and different things. So this is just a quick recording on my favourite subjects, books and art, and it's in response to an original tag created by Daniela at Uncommon Reader, who's celebrating her 1 year anniversary, which is brilliant. And so she has set up this original tag, and I get tagged by Book Chat with Pat, along with about 29 other people, so hopefully there should be a few more videos coming up on the subject. I'm a fully paid up subscribed member of Being Overexcited About Books and Art, and I'm one of the co-hosts in the Framed in September little reading jaunt that we do in the month of September. Last year was the first one, hopefully it'll be more. And I'm hearing little comments from Hannah at Hannah's Books saying, oh, I've come across this book, it will be good for Framed in September. So hopefully this event is going to continue and happen again. So this all sounded great. Then I went to look for the books for this tag and went, actually, they're not really hitting the books I'm vastly interested in reading now. And at the moment I'm reading a lot of poetry. And the second thing is some of the books you will have seen before, because I have been on BookTube probably for about 3 years now, and I have made over 100 videos, and so some of these books you're going to say, I remember seeing that before. Okay, so apologies, I'll try maybe say something new this time around. The first prompt is that talking about exploring solitude, but Daniela set it up really well where she showed a particular painting and then linked it to the title. So her painting was showing Wander Above the Sea of Fog by Caspar David Friedrich. And then to discuss a book that focuses on or explores solitude. So I haven't got the book to show you for this prompt because it's a library book, and it's called A Book of Silence by Sara Maitland. And it's got beautiful descriptions of silence in it. And that doesn't mean that you turn the page and there's no words on the page, and that's describing silence. She's a very accomplished writer. She writes across a wide range of subjects, and it shows. It was published in 2009, and that's probably about the time I read it. And at the time I was getting interested in and going on silent retreats, so it was particularly of interest to me. And if you like the scenery of Scotland, she seeks out silence in Scottish hills. She goes to a little remote cottage in the Isle of Skye, and she then starts to set up her own little hermitage, which is a very large name for a small little house herself on a remote Scottish moor. And there are different silences in those different places, because sometimes there is more of a sense of the natural wind coming through or sounds and creaks and whatnot, and other times it's just more emptiness and absence of sound. So what you're getting is a bit of a personal story, what she's doing, what she's thinking and feeling. She's giving an intelligent look at the whole history of silence. Well, what does it mean? How has it been used in arts and in psychoanalysis? So if that floats your boat, I think it's a really good quality book. A Book of Silence by Sara Maitland. The second prompt is a book with supernatural protagonists, and this, I'm not really into books that are like that, so I've got something which is quite a bit of art in it, and I came across it for an art project that I was doing on Stations of the Resurrection and thinking about Easter. Okay, so the book is Resurrecting Easter, How the West Lost and the East Kept the Original Easter Vision. And so this is a story of how two people together went round old buildings and looked at manuscripts that were from ancient times, showing how Eastern Christianity observed and thought about Easter and the resurrection, and how the West did, and how they have become very dissimilar. So, and part of that is a phrase and a sense of thinking about Easter Saturday where it tends not to be thought about that much in the West, Christianity, but Orthodox and Eastern Christianity thinks of that as the harrowing of hell. Isn't that an amazing phrase? The harrowing of hell, in which Christ, who has died, goes down to hell and plunders it, basically knocks down the doors and takes people up who are living in faith that they will be taken to heaven. So it's quite a dramatic picture, quite a dramatic thought, and that's the book. And it was by John Dominic Crossan and his wife Sara Sexton Crossan. Okay. Third prompt. The painting was by Kandinsky, it was of Moscow, and the theme is a book set in the future, science fiction or dystopic. So I'm going to show something. I mean, if I say that's a prompt, what do you think of? Because here comes the book. It's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. These are the original radio scripts. So it was produced as a radio series which was immensely popular. It was a tremendously good listening experience because it had all these special effects and it was an exciting thing to listen to. And then from that there was a demand for the book, and then that became another book and another book and another book. So I think at the end it was described as a trilogy of 5 books. But anyway, so Safeward Beeble Brooks and Arthur Dent and all the crew are in here with the radio scripts, which are slightly different from the actual book itself, the first book. And obviously it's got, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but it has humour in it. So that's the rather obvious response, because I don't tend to read science fiction. Okay, next, what have we got? 4, prompt 4. The painting was The Cradle with Bertha Morisot, a book with a special bond between mother and daughter or son. And again, I realised I don't actually read vast family sagas, which if you're into that, or if you're into reading about, say, the royal family or a history of royalties' places, then you're reading about families naturally, and that's going to be very easy for you to find something. For me, it was slightly more difficult, but I've got a very special book which sounds like it's something gothic, but it's not. Black Rainbow, and it's by Rachel Kelly. Now, I have mentioned it before because it simply is a great book, and I think a lot of people would find it interesting to read. It's about Rachel Kelly, who was the wife of someone who was going for being an MP in London. She was very much successful, happily married with some kids, and then all of a sudden she had totally debilitating depression to the point that she was in bed in agony from it, barely able to sustain the thought of getting out of bed to go to the bathroom. So this is the story of how she came back, but it also describes what it's like in a very sympathetic way, and about how people struggle to understand, and how for her one of the important things were words of poetry especially, and for her mother, who was very close to be beside her. But of course the story is not just about her mother and her, it is also about how she as a mother feels about her children, and this is all wrapped up in it, where she's incredibly ill and at the same time they're very young and need to be looked after, and how all that is for her. And so she gradually recovers, and then she has a reset, a reoccurrence later on, and from that she has basically pioneered a whole charity which is about helping other people who are in this circumstance. So the subtitle of the book is How Words Healed Me, My Journey Through Depression by Rachel Kelly. It's dedicated to her husband Sebastian, who stood by her through all this sudden strangeness. I'll give you a quick flick, you'll see there are some poems described. I lent this to a friend who had a daughter who suddenly went through extreme depression, which was misdiagnosed as the psychotic episode and various things. And she just said, oh, yeah, I recognise this behaviour. So if you have somebody in your life that you are struggling to understand and this sounds something similar, you might find it helpful. But it's a wonderful study anyway. It's real life. So let's see, what else have we got? Painting. The Swing by Renoir is prompt 5, a book that reminds you of your childhood. And again, we're going to come to something so incredibly obvious that a lot of people are just going to say, yeah, me too. And it's Asterix. Asterix and Obelix. All those colourful illustrations and the sense of humour. And I remember them being that range of wonderful books in the children's section of the library. And in my day, this is maybe something I can check with you, there were also foreign language editions. So you could have the same story, but in Latin even, and maybe in French. I don't know if there was Spanish or German. Does anybody else remember that? And where I was growing up, it was the library books were all in English, but there were those different foreign language translations of Asterix and Obelix. And it was a great way to help you learn a language in that you could see what was happening from the story drawings, and then you were just reading the words to translate. So hands up if anybody has seen those when they were growing up as well, and in foreign languages. Prompt 6. The painting was An American Gothic by Wood Grant, a book set in a rural area. I have got a book I've shown before because I love it, and it's called Comfort Farm by Stella Gibbons. You can see by the picture it's got that kind of Gothic rural look, and actually she is being kind of satirical about it, sending it up, or as you might hear said in Ireland, taking the hand out of the whole idea of the Gothic novel, which at the time she wrote this was so pervasive that she just said, okay, we have to take this to the comic extent. And so what she did was she had a character who was incredibly organised and ended up being with this family that were in all this Gothicness of every possible cliche of what a Gothic novel would be about, how it would be set, are in that family, and she comes in as just a very well organised person to sort them out. It's also set a little bit at a distance to the future, but it's not dystopic. And in it, people are using planes as like you would use a car. So it's set slightly in the future. But anyway, there we go. So for light reading and humour, Cold Comfort Farm. We're getting near the end now. We have got prompt 7, which is the painting of a self-portrait of Artemisia Gentileschi, a book with a female protagonist ahead of her time, a pioneer. Now, at this point, I'm going to bring out the book that I always bring out if I can possibly shoehorn it into the topic we're talking about, because I love it. I love it. I love it. I have recommended it highly. If you're a creative person, please get it. If you're a woman and a creative person. Daily Rituals. Women at Work. Mason Currey. Okay, so he initially wrote a book which was about, that might be more helpful, people who are famous for being creative and pioneers and breakthrough people, and wrote a book about them. How did they find the time to do their breakthroughs? How did they discipline themselves? What creative practices did they keep? And then he realised that actually almost everyone was a man, and so he set out to do one which is specifically for women, because a lot of women through the ages have been more preoccupied or limited, maybe with social or health or responsibilities of family, and what is the place of a woman in her home. She's meant to do a whole lot more before she gets to her creative space. So this is brilliant. Lots of little couple of page summaries of what they did. They're all different characters. They're across the art. So you'll meet somebody who's, for example, a painter, and then you'll see somebody who's a sculptor, someone who's a writer, somebody who sings opera, someone who makes films. They're there. So there's usually somebody that you can relate to. This one is funny, Rosa Bonheur. I'll tell you for why. She was notorious for wearing men's clothes, which was not only scandalous but illegal in 19th century France. In the 1850s, Bonheur, this is Rosa Bonheur, was one of 12 women granted a cross-dressing licence by the Paris police. George Sand was one of the others. Bonheur secured the permit because she said that she needed to wear trousers for her work, which required visiting slaughterhouses to gain her detailed knowledge of animal anatomy. She tended to paint horses. Well, there's a whole range of restrictions that are interesting to think about, and this is utterly inspiring because you get to see how lots of creative people managed to get time for their work and to make what was essentially their life's work. Another book with women in it who are ahead of their times, Funny Business, The Greatest Names in Comedy, introduction by Rowan Atkinson. And it takes people and shows you them, a lot of whom are guys, but there are also some key women, and here's why. There are Mae West. In the 1920s, she was writing and producing her own movies. We have Joyce Grenfell, Lucille Ball, great talent, and TV was really her thing. She made, together with her husband, they had the TV company Desilu, and it launched the careers of some rather important TV franchises. We had The Untouchables, Mission Impossible, still going strong, and something else. Oh yeah, it was Star Trek. Where's that now? But anyway, so she was important. Other comedians, Joan Rivers, Lily Tomlin, Victoria Woods, French and Saunders. And part of the reason I want to celebrate that is because some people maybe doubt that women have a sense of humour, and this, by doing this, the work that they did, these women were saying, yes, women can have a sense of humour, they can laugh, and they have the smartness to put it into words, present it to other people, make them laugh as well. It's got wit in it, and it's got that seeing the world and thinking about it, and then bringing it across in a way that's entertaining, but maybe asking some philosophical questions, but it's intelligent wit as well as absurdity, the absurdity of life as well. Finally, the bonus question. What is your favourite painting or art? Create a prompt to match your art with a book title. Well, I put them all together. My prompt is art as life. Okay? And I encourage anyone else doing this to consider that as a prompt, art as life. And part of the response for this, for me, would be Bloomsbury, Needlepoint, the Charleston house, where the Bloomsbury group set up home and lived in ways that are interesting. This is the house. I might, if I get time, show you the photograph of me at the very same door and visiting it a couple of years ago, which I was really pleased to do. And because they weren't very wealthy, they would paint everywhere. And so, for example, they would say the only way to get warm was to actually be painting the fireplace. It was an older house. It's a delight to see round. It's open for viewing to the public in the south of England and well worth seeing. And this book is just looking at the various needlepoint pieces that were made, mostly by one of the artists was Duncan, and it was his mother who did a lot of it, embroidered it. But the whole house is like they painted everything. They painted the doors, painted the panels of the doors in colours which would still be quite exotic by modern standards. And yeah, so that's art is life. Finally, there's a prompt to tag someone else. And I think the prompt for that is, if you see this and you want to do it, please do. A lot of the people have been tagged already by Pat that I would think of as being interested in doing this. So it's entirely up to you. And I hope you've enjoyed this ramble, which is going to run to about 20 minutes. And I will be back, hopefully, sooner, rather than the big gap that we've had before this recording. Bye for now.